What's going on YouTube? Joker back again once again. So over the last month, EA has been in the news a lot. They closed down Dead Space developer Visceral, they bought Titanfall developer Respawn, rest in peace. On top of that, the EA Early Access for Star Wars Battlefront 2 has seen a lot of controversy. Everything from the pricing of the hero characters, to the fact that the progression system is tied directly to loot boxes. As one Redditor by the name of the Hotter Potato posts, since EA and DICE have decided to move Star Wars Battlefront 2 to a credits earned based on time played, rather than the old system of awarding you based on score earned in a match, I thought I would do an analysis of my time spent playing the Galactic Assault mode during the EA Access period. Please note, the credits earned in challenges are not factored into these numbers. The post then goes on to detail additional criteria for gathering the data. I started the timer as soon as the match started and the opening shot pans down to my character. I stopped the timer on the victory or defeat screen. So the relevant stats provided by the post are as followed. The average length of a Galactic Assault match, 11 minutes 9 seconds. The average credits you earn per match, 275. The average credits earned per minute of gameplay, 25.04. The number of minutes required to earn a Trooper crate, which are 4,000 credits, 159.73. The post continues stating, almost 3 hours of gameplay is required to earn a Trooper crate at the current rate. I understand these values don't include what you'll earn through challenges, but I am mainly doing this to figure out what it is going to be like after the first week, and I'm done chasing the easy challenges and start playing the way I enjoy. And the poster's right. 3 hours is way too much of a time requirement. Gameplay minutes required to unlock one hero, 2,395.97. The post continues. You read that correctly. At the current price of 60,000 credits, it will take you 40 hours of gameplay to earn the right to unlock one hero or villain. That means 40 hours of saving each and every credit. No buying any crates at all, so no bonus credits from getting duplicates and crates. The spreadsheet also includes an estimate for the amount of time it will take you to earn uncommons and rares based on GameSpot's crate opening statistics. But the drop rates have not been tested enough for me to include them there. But I do think it's scary that it could potentially take someone over 20 hours of gameplay to earn enough crafting materials to make an epic tier star card. And what has the developer and the publisher's response been to this entire controversy? Well, it was the most downvoted comment in the history of Reddit. So, I mean, that's something. The response goes as followed. Our goal involves creating a compelling progression path for all our players. There's a lot of content at launch, with even more coming via live services, and we'll continuously adjust our progression mechanics to give players a sense of accomplishment as they explore Battlefront 2. I posted this in another thread, but I feel it would be good to post it here as well. Heroes earned through credits. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. We selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at the average per player credits earned rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course, obtainable via gameplay. Credits earned. We're looking at the results daily, and we'll be continuing to tune this to ensure that players feel a meaningful sense of reward for the time they spend with Battlefront 2. We appreciate the conversation here, and our team is working to make the best choices possible for the game and the players. We will provide more details and updates as we can. And I thought Bungie was bad with PR. So let's go ahead and quantify this a little bit. The poster of this states that they're not including challenges which grant more credits. At the same time, they're also not spending any credits on loot boxes which are tied to progression. So for argument's sake, I would say that even with the challenges, you're still going to be playing the game a generous 30 to 35 hours to get a single hero or villain. On top of that, the developer and the publisher do not seem to think that there is anything wrong with this 40-hour time frame, which they can be seen defending in their response. Now, by whatever common sense, is still at EA. You cannot outright buy hero and villain characters with cash. But there seems to be a real incentive to push players into using real money to buy loot boxes, so that they can progress like normal while simultaneously hoarding credits to purchase heroes and villains. And, of course, you can scrap any duplicate cards that you just so happen to get and don't need, which will also give you credits to go towards your heroes. So there is a real incentive to pay your way to the content you want. Call it pay to win, call it pay to progress, call it pay to play the fucking game you already spent $60 fucking on. It really doesn't matter. If any of this is all starting to sound a little bit familiar, well, it should. We've already covered something like this on the channel before. In an article on GameSpot called "Somebody Spent $15,000 on Mass Effect multiplayer cards." Thank you, by the way, nameless asshole. You fucked it up for the rest of us. In a recent podcast on Waypoint, Manveer Hare, who was a designer at BioWare for 7 years and worked on both Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect Andromeda, discussed EA's seeming shift away from single-player experiences to more open and shared world titles, like the upcoming Star Wars Battlefront 2. Hare says the reason for this is because the publisher can monetize those kinds of games better. It's also the reason that packs were introduced into the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. The words in there that were used are, "have them come back again and again," Hare says. Why do you care about that at EA? The reason you care about that is because microtransactions, buying card packs in Mass Effect games, the multiplayer. It's the same reason we added card packs to Mass Effect 3. How do you get people to keep coming back to a thing instead of just playing for 60 to 100 hours? And that's what we're seeing with Star Wars Battlefront 2. Each hero took about 30 to 40 hours to unlock. Currently, there are 14 heroes in the game, and that would have taken a generous 490 hours to unlock all the characters, or 21 days of straight gameplay. Mind you, this does not take into consideration loading times or the time spent fiddling around in the menus, nor does it allow you to progress in any other way. This is how long it would take if you booted up the game for the first time and never spent a single credit on anything other than a hero. That would mean 21 days of stagnated progression in order to unlock all the heroes. And this mentality is EA, and let's be honest, every publisher's end goal: to produce a $60 game and figure out new and interesting ways to make you spend additional money. Sometimes, like in the case of Titanfall, this seems to work really well for the developer and the player. You buy what you want, and the developer supports the game with free DLC and free updates. Win-win. But in the case of Battlefront 2, you are incentivized to spend money just to progress in the game, so you can experience the core features of the game. The game wants you to actively spend more money just so you can use the core features of the fucking game that you already spent $60 fucking on. Sure, yeah, the DLC's free, but with the largest air quotes around free that I have ever seen in my fucking life. This is why it's important to talk about it, because if EA, and let's be honest, any other publisher, had their way, we would be paying $1 every time we wanted to reload a weapon.
When you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not very price sensitive at that point in time. And for what it's worth, the cogs on the clip really low. And so essentially what ends up happening, and the reason the play first, pay later model works so nicely, is the consumer gets engaged in a property. They might spend 10, 20, 30, 50 hours on the game. And then when they're deep into the game, they're well invested in it. We're not gouging, but we're charging.
Sure, John Riccitiello is no longer CEO of EA and hasn't been for some time. But let's be honest, the mentality is still clearly there. Hell, it's already getting a little absurd when it comes to microtransactions. Star Wars Battlefront 2, Need for Speed Payback, Call of Duty World War II, Shadow of War, Forza 7, FIFA 18, Destiny 2, Madden 18, Lawbreakers, Injustice 2, Mass Effect Andromeda, Halo Wars 2, Overwatch, Battlefield, Halo 5, Gears of War 4. Hell, is there a AAA game out there that doesn't have a robust microtransaction system in place? And it seems right now the only condolence that we have as gamers is just how invasive the system is and what the trade-off is. So that's the controversy. Now, as I'm writing this script, John Wyzak, executive producer of DICE, made a statement. It reads,
Since the start of the project, listening to the fans has been important in making sure that Star Wars trademark Battlefront trademark 2 is the very best experience for all of you. We've done this with the closed alpha, through the beta last month, and our Play First trial. And we continue to make adjustments based on your feedback as the game launches worldwide this week. Listening and providing choices in how you play will always be our principle with Star Wars no trademark, Battlefront no trademark 2. We want to ensure the game is balanced and fun both today and for years in the future. Making great games comes from regular tuning. As one example, today we're making a substantial change based on what we've seen during the Play First trial. There's been a lot of discussion around the amount of in-game credits and time it takes to unlock some of our heroes, especially Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Unlocking a hero is a great accomplishment in the game, something we want players to have fun earning. We use data from the beta to help set those levels, but it's clear that more changes were needed. So, we've reduced the amount of credits needed to unlock the top heroes by 75%. Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader will now be available for 15,000 credits. Emperor Palpatine, Chewbacca, and Leia for 10,000 credits, and Iden for 5,000 credits. Based on what we've seen in the trial, this amount will make earning these heroes an achievement, but one that will be accessible for all players. It's a big change, and it is one we can make quickly. It will go live today with an update that's getting loaded into the game.
So let's take a second and unpack this statement. What's actually being said here? The statement is essentially what EA thinks their community wants to hear. Instead of taking 40 hours to unlock a single character with zero progression elsewhere, it'll now take 10.5 hours to unlock a single top tier character with zero progression elsewhere. So one's gotta ask, especially given how specific these numbers ended up being, did EA really compromise, or is this what they wanted all along? If this wasn't for the fact that it was EA, I would think that that sounded like some stupid conspiracy theory. But this does seem like an attempt to see how far they can push microtransactions, then walk it back just in time for the release, and act like, hey, we heard the community. But what really changed? Yeah, sure, the heroes are a little bit cheaper, and they only take 10.5 hours for the top tier heroes instead of 40, but the progression system is still tied to loot boxes in order to incentivize the purchase of said loot boxes in a full-price $60 AAA game. The core of the issue is the microtransactions, the pay-to-win, the inflated grind that is created as a result of wanting to incentivize players to purchase said loot boxes. It's all still there. The heroes were just the most effective way of underlining that issue. But with this PR stunt, none of that has changed. It will still take over 4,000 hours to upgrade all the star cards in the game from level 3 to level 4. This walkback on the price of the heroes? It's nothing more than a PR stunt. It's an attempt to buy good faith where there is none. This is like EA trying to use Monopoly money at Caesar's Palace. That check don't cash. If you wanted my review of Battlefront 2, here it is. Battlefront 2 is nothing more than a slot machine with a Star Wars paint job. The progression system is intimately tied to loot boxes, and this is to incentivize the buying of them. Because your $60 was not enough for the base game and the core mechanics there within. This is a game designed specifically to get you to pay more. I personally advise avoiding this game, like it's the fucking plague. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.
The second thing, and this is a point that I think might be lost on many, is a big and substantial portion digital revenues or microtransactions. When you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not very price sensitive at that point in time. And for what it's worth, the cogs on the clip really low. And so essentially what ends up happening, and the reason the play first, pay later model works so nicely, is the consumer gets engaged in a property. They might spend 10, 20, 30, 50 hours on the game. And then when they're deep into the game, they're well invested in it. We're not gouging, but we're charging. And at that point in time, the commitment can be pretty high. As a personal anecdote, I spent about $5,000 calendar year to date on doing just this type of thing on our products and others. I can readily attest to how well it works. But it's a great model, and I think it represents a substantially better future for the industry.